Thank you all for joining us for this information session focused on our online Master of Science in Engineering Education. Just by way of introduction, my name is Professor Brent Jesiek. I am a faculty member in the School of Engineering Education and also have the pleasure of serving as the director of our online graduate programs. So for this webinar today, um, quick overview. So let's start with the question of who is the MSc ENE designed for? It's a pretty wide range of students and prospective students. Including graduate students and current faculty, industry professionals, K-12 educators, and much more. And as you'll see, the flexible nature of the coursework means that you can sort of tune the degree to your particular interests and needs as well. So we can serve a really wide range of stakeholders in the program. So, for example, PhD students who are in engineering or related fields preparing for a faculty career might be interested in seeking the master's degree alongside the PhD. We have a number of students at Purdue who are doing that. Current engineering faculty who would like to become more effective teachers, as well as mid-career engineers or scientists who are looking for a shift, a career pivot into education, industry professionals and consultants who are seeking some sort of formal credential or qualifications or professional development as technical trainers and leaders. And I have a profile here, and you can go on our social media feeds and learn more about some of our alumni, including folks like Ryan Tang Dan, who is a program coordinator for robotics at New York Power Authority. So, no, I think Ryan's probably one of our students or our graduates who's closest to kind of your career path. So he might be a good individual to look at or talk to. And then Nathan, you mentioned K-12 too, and we certainly have had folks in the program who are interested in K-12 education, who want to develop and lead high quality courses and programs in engineering, technology, and related STEM fields. And again, I can connect you with folks who follow that path as well with our MS degree program and are doing great things in the K-12 system. So, a little overview about the master's degree program. This is a very traditional 30 credit non-thesis master's degree. And in terms of coursework, it does require 15 credits of required coursework, and I'll go over that in a little more detail in a moment, along with 6 hours of elective coursework and then 9 additional electives. And those kind of fall in two different buckets. And I'll talk through on the next slide how those courses sort of parse out between the 6 and the 9. All students going through the program are expected to develop and eventually submit a portfolio that demonstrates progress toward at least 6 of 10 ENE graduate competencies. And so this is another way that you can sort of tune your degree, but also come out of the program with a sort of a product that can be useful for you in professional development, going on the job market, applying to graduate schools if you go on for a PhD, that sort of thing. And then another important note here, all of our programs nest together. So if you started, for example, with our teaching and learning in engineering graduate certificate, that's a 10 credit certificate that fully counts towards the MSENE degree. So you could do the certificate and the master's together, get both those credentials for the 30 credits. And then those 30 credits can count up into the PhD in engineering education. So if you got the master's degree in engineering education, you could very seamlessly go to the PhD, and then you'd be facing 60 additional credits for the PhD if you were admitted. And you could come into the residential program. That would be the most common pathway. But that's another option as well, that you don't lose any credits going from certificate to master's to PhD. The program requirements are fully nested into one another. Now, to give you a little more flavor for the coursework, and this gives a list of the 15 credits. So of these, there are really four 3 credit courses that are required of all students in the program. Foundations of Engineering Education is typically taken in your first semester, Students usually take that, and that's a fall course. You can start in the spring as well. So it'd be taken then maybe in your second or third semester, but it's often taken early in the program. And the reason we like to have students take it early is because one of the outcomes of that course is starting to create that portfolio and sort of charting out goals and a pathway through the program aligned with your competency development goals. That program also introduces you to our faculty, um, select research and projects and scholarship from our faculty, and a strong emphasis on academic writing as well, which provides kind of a backbone and foundation for your subsequent coursework. Um, Another course that is usually taken in the first early in the program by students is History and Philosophy of Engineering Education. That's a course that I've periodically taught over the years and will be teaching again, I believe, in the spring. Um, as its name describes, we spend a lot in that time in that class talking about the history of engineering, the history of education, history of engineering education, and bringing lots of philosophical perspectives in as well. So lots of intersection of humanities and social science scholarship at the intersection of those topics. Engineering Education Inquiry 503 is our introductory research methods class. So you get a taste of another sort of taste of engineering education research and scholarship, but with a focus on the methods and the study designs used in those works. ENE 506 is a very popular course called Content Assessment and Pedagogy. This is a course that sort of both provides sort of theoretical and conceptual foundations around aligning your content assessment and pedagogy in courses or training or other types of educational environments. But also, again, gives you opportunities to practice creating well-aligned instructional design for courses and other types of educational programming. We do have a seminar requirement. This is currently a 0 credit requirement. Master's students are required to participate in the seminar twice. This is our weekly research seminar for the school. So most weeks we have either an internal or external guest speaker presenting current leading edge topics in the field. And our students enrolled in seminar are expected to um, uh, pose questions, participate in the seminar. Um, and it provides a nice way to sort of stay connected to the community and also get exposed to current scholarship in the field. And then you've got an option, again, depending on what career path you're following. Many of our master's students who maybe aren't considering immediately pursuing further graduate studies will take leadership policy and change in STEM education. That's a course that has sort of broad relevance, whether you're going to higher education, you're going into K-12 settings, you're going into industry. There's lots of relevance and resonance here. Students who are sort of curious about maybe pursuing further graduate studies, especially a PhD program, might gravitate toward our theories class. So this is a course focused on developmental theories and educational theories, particularly relevant to engineering education. So that course is pretty heavy lifting in terms of reading and writing around educational theories. Um, but provides a nice sort of springboard if you are interested in going on to do further research or scholarship in this space. And you could take both. One of those courses could also count towards an elective requirement. So if you wanted to take leadership and theories, that's always an option. I mentioned our graduate competencies. So this is how our graduate competencies are structured. We do have an overarching sort of general competency statement that's sort of threaded through the graduate competencies. That's focusing on attention to principles that promote fairness in action, meeting people where they are, embracing a plurality of perspectives, making space for everyone. But our specific graduate competencies shown here, again, for master's students, you would be focusing on at least six of 10 of these, especially in your portfolio, where you would be documenting progress toward developing competence in each of these areas. Of course, we provide a lot more information about what all these mean, but some of them are very sort of traditional scholarly kind of outcomes that we would associate with being able to read and engage with and maybe even create empirical research. So things like being able to synthesize knowledge, create knowledge, communicate it, thinking critically and reflectively, but also, more research to practice skills like applying engineering education principles to instructional or curricular problems, potentially demonstrating more traditional engineering skills, engaging in professional development, various ways of participating in professional community, whether that's locally at Purdue or in national settings, environments, regional meetings, conferences, opportunities to explain and critique education policy, and of course, teaching engineering, last but not least. And some of you are probably wondering if I'm taking online courses, what is that going to look like? Well, first of all, our ENE graduate courses are typically led by PhD holding faculty and instructors who are recognized experts and leaders in the field. So the types of folks who are going to be leading these courses are faculty members like Dr. Wirtz and myself and others in the program, many who have long and deep experience in the field and related fields. All of our coursework is offered online in both synchronous and asynchronous formats, so you can participate in real time if that works for you, or potentially engage in other ways. So it's pretty common in our courses for students to have access to recordings of the class meetings that they can review afterward if they're not able to attend, maybe engage in small group meetings or discussions with other asynchronous students in the class who can't attend the class meetings, or do things like participate in online discussion boards or write and submit reflections. We really try to practice what we preach. We leverage innovative pedagogies and educational technologies to provide high quality online teaching and learning experiences. So whether you're participating synchronously or asynchronously, we try to do everything we can to keep you engaged and connected to our class meetings and discussions. And all of the students enrolled in our program benefit from a vibrant and connected community, which includes both our residential and online students. And we do also have a very active student organization called the ENE GSA. And all of our master's students are, of course, also encouraged to get connected with and get involved in ENE GSA. Finally, with a graduate degree a graduate degree in ENE, you'll be linked to a network of more than 175 alumni who've earned graduate degrees with us. So we do have the largest alumni network, and many of our graduates benefit from having access to that and sort of being folded into this larger network of ENE graduates. So in terms of application, applications are submitted to a portal that's to Purdue. And so for additional details, you want to look at the graduate school's admission information. If you're having trouble finding that, let us know. In terms of tuition and finances, the credit cost per credit hour are shown here, and that translates to the cost for a 3 credit hour course for Indiana residents being about $3,400, and for non-Indiana residents about $4,300 or $4,400. Unfortunately, tuition remission internal to Purdue is not available for online courses. So for students for whom this is not financially feasible, we do, of course, um, consider applications into the PhD program with potential funding offers. So you may want to explore that as another possibility. Federal government employees may be eligible to receive tuition discounts. Education-related benefits may also be available for active military personnel. And then some of our students also leverage loans or tuition benefits, for example, through their current employers to support their graduate studies. A couple other frequently asked questions. These are things that students often ask when they're looking into the program. So is the program suitable for a person who works full-time? Yes, our typical master's student works full-time, and many of our students might only take one course per semester. How long does it finish to take the program? Of course, that really depends how much time you have to spend on classes. At least 2 classes that would satisfy the requirements for the degree are offered each semester, and a few classes are typically offered in the summer. If you take an average of about one course per semester, if you sort of do the math there, your expected time to graduation is somewhere in the 3 to 4 year range. Of course, if ramp that up with 2 or 3 kind of at the most courses per semester, you can move through much more quickly. Could you take time off while pursuing the degree? Yes, we do not require, Purdue does not require continuous enrollment. But if you do have a lapse in enrollment for more than two consecutive semesters, you would lose your active student status and then reapply to the program. And another question, perhaps you've taken or would like to take relevant coursework elsewhere. Can those credits count toward the MSENE? It may be possible to apply credits earned elsewhere. Purdue policy places a cap on that up to 12 credits toward your degree, but those credits cannot have been applied to any other degree. And we would also need to review detailed information about such courses to determine transfer eligibility and equivalencies. If you'd like to explore such transfers, we'd be happy to arrange a consultation with you to talk about it more. One specific thing I'll note here as well, we are also working on developing a list of sort of pre-approved courses that we would count toward the degree, including from institutions like Purdue Global. And I should just note here really quickly, Purdue Global is separate from Purdue University main campus and Purdue University online. Purdue Global is a separate institution. We are not formally affiliated with Purdue Global, but it is a part of the larger Purdue family and network. And so we're currently working on developing a list of coursework from Purdue Global that would potentially be directly useful toward our degree requirements. Testimonial here, you get a little bit of a flavor for how she's seen this degree benefiting her and her career. And finally, in a moment, I'll turn it over to open the floor for questions, but just to make sure you have contact information and you can put some faces with names. So again, I'm Brent Jesiek. I'm a faculty member at Engineering Education, Director of Online Graduate Programs. If you have any questions whatsoever about the program or the application process or the admission process, anything else, feel free to reach directly out to me. Also wanted to introduce you to Dr. Shania Perzer. She's a faculty member in our school and also serving as the associate head of our graduate program. So she oversees all of our graduate programs and is a particularly good contact for any questions about our PhD program. And finally, Tina Putz is our graduate program manager. She sort of handles a lot of our day-to-day operations, including answering questions and helping students through the application process, the admission process, setting up advising meetings, all those sorts of things. So she's a great resource as well. But again, feel free to reach out to any of us with questions and we'll make sure they get answered. And with that, I've probably said enough for now and would be happy to open it up for any questions that y'all might have about the program. So typically, I think an average number of students in the classroom would probably be 10 to 12 on average, and our online enrollments have been growing. But I think our largest online enrollments have been in the neighborhood of 5 to 8 students. So that's usually enough for us to create a small cohort of our students in the online format, so that we can connect you to perhaps have small group meetings and that sort of thing to engage with one another and to improve engagement with the material. So if you're worried about really big classes, I mean, we'd like to grow, but like that's not where we're at. I'd say right now our sort of target for the next few years is to grow some of these classes to maybe 30 students, 15 online, 15 in the classroom, but that's the kind of scale that we're talking. They're pretty small at this point. So that means lots of opportunities to engage with peers and then lots of opportunities to engage with our faculty. Ruth, did you have anything else maybe to add?
Yeah, no, that's consistent with my observations as well. Most of my graduate teaching has been in the 505 course that Dr. Jessic mentioned, which is the learning theory course. Um, and I've had classes that where there's a large enough group of online students that we do hold kind of almost asynchronous small group discussions throughout the week, but you're still engaging with the class as a whole. So I think a little bit unique in the sense that you're a smaller cohort amongst yourselves, but you're still interfacing with PhD students and other master students. So it doesn't feel like you're kind of on a boat by yourself.
And I would just quickly add too, in terms of who's in those classes, for most of our ENE courses, the largest number of students in the classes would be ENE students, typically in our PhD program and our master's program. But then we also typically have in many of our classes some students pursuing the certificate in teaching and learning and engineering, or students in other degree programs. And so we have quite a few students take our courses who are pursuing the master's in interdisciplinary engineering that's offered by the College of Engineering. That's an online master's degree program. We call that MSIDE. And then there's a new doctorate in an engineer online doctorate in engineering that Purdue offers. So we're starting to have some of those students. And then we get students from really across the College of Engineering and sometimes some technology students who are either taking our courses as electives or pursuing the certificate or the master's degree alongside a PhD. So I think that's also a strength of our program that you get a really nice sort of mix of folks pursuing different degrees from different disciplinary backgrounds, and including sometimes a mix of folks who are full-time students, but also others who are part-time students, maybe working full-time or engaged in other types of pursuits. So it really does lead to rich conversations. I think in part it depends on your career goals. And I would probably recommend looking at some job advertisements and talking to colleagues who or folks you're connected to, and we can probably help with this too. Folks who are engaged in STEM education in the K-12 area, because I think, the certificate is certainly going to be a helpful credential. But the master's is probably going to open up more opportunities, especially in terms of moving into more leadership roles or like, for example, being a department head or creating programming, that sort of thing. We have an alumni, and feel free to reach out. I can connect you. We have an alum named Lee Hyatt who received his master's in our program and is a K-12 educator. So he would be a great person to talk to about his experience and what value add he's seen in terms of the having the master's degree. So yeah, we can certainly help make some of those connections as well. Ruth, do you have any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, that's a very thoughtful question, Nathan. And what I agree with everything that Dr. Jesiek just mentioned. That it really is dependent on what you're wanting out of this as a next step. And I would say, in addition to Lee, we could also put him in touch with Bruce, who is in our PhD program, but coming from a very long K-12 educator background and might be able to offer insights. I've never worked in the K-12 space. I do some research in the K-12 space, which is very different. Um, but he would probably have insights that we do not, and could be a really great resource in just as a mentor of what is it that you're trying to get at, and here's maybe some ideas of how to do that. Um, I almost would always recommend to go into like start with the applications masters, and you can always scale back if it's not what you're looking for. But that's just how I've lived my life is go for the long haul and then always have an exit plan.
Yeah, there's nothing to stop you from starting to take certificate courses first. Now, of course, if you're serious about the master's, we're going to encourage you to take that foundations course when you're getting more serious about that master's. But yeah, certainly the certificate is a standalone credential. And I think Ruth has provided great advice there. And if you stopped at the certificate, not a problem. But then you'd have the option of going on to the master's as well. The other person that I'll quickly mention, in addition to Bruce and Lee, we do have a few faculty who are specifically connected to the K-12 space. So particularly Dr. Tamara Moore would probably be another good person to ask. She has a long track record in engaging in policy and practice in the K-12 area, and would probably have some additional insights on that question. So yeah, reach out. Feel free to just send me a note and I'll make some connections. The financial dimension is non-trivial. So I would say, yeah, most commonly we see students going through the program part-time, which keeps the finances more manageable. Um, there may be opportunities to tap into student loans. Purdue's Division of Financial Aid would be a good, we don't really interface with that side of the house, right? So, but if you reach out to Purdue's Division of Financial Aid, they can share with you information about what loan and other opportunities are available for online graduate students. And then, of course, yeah, the other thing that we see is individuals taking advantage of tuition benefits, for example, through employers, or if they're active or retired military, those types of things, that becomes an option. Yeah, those are most common. Our, our PhD applications go through the most rigorous review process, in part because those are often tied to funding decisions, right? So when we're making those decisions, it's a bit higher stakes. So the master's and certificate applications go through a bit more of a streamlined process. I would be reviewing all of those. Our graduate chair, Shania Perzer, would be reviewing all of those. Occasionally, we might get another pair of eyes on those applications, but typically they go through fairly quickly between myself and Dr. Perzer. I would say a couple of the things that I would suggest is that are helpful for us to see are having a sense for how your prior background and experiences relate to your desire to pursue a degree in this area, um, why you're specifically attracted to this degree and what you hope to get out of it. So if you have some specific thoughts about what competencies you want to develop, are there specific courses or areas that you want to focus on? As my review or as my overview suggested, there's pretty significant opportunity to sort of tailor and tune your degree. There's about half of your credits are really electives. So what are you sort of thinking in terms of where you might like to go in terms of specializing? And then how do you see this degree and this credential fitting into your long-term career trajectory? Where do you want to go, right? Paint us a picture of how this fits into your future plans and how do you see this positioning you for future opportunities. I think those are some of the main things. Thank you all for joining us. Really appreciate your interest in the program. Look forward to hearing more from y'all. Again, reach out if other questions surface. Just give a shout. We're here to help. Have a great week.
Alex,
Appreciate
nice to
it.
meet
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.